Every year or so, an indie game comes out that reminds us why it's so important that anyone can make their own games. Not just the giant game studios. I'm talking about the fun but weird ideas for video games that sound laughable on paper to a room of AAA executives that become trend-setting successes. But how do you convince someone to invest into fun but weird games like Papers, Please? Seriously, it's going to be great. You're going to work as a border patrol officer at your country's border, and you're looking at the people's passports looking for different discrepancies. People are going to buy it like
I don't
hotcakes.
understand the business. I'm out.
That's okay. I have another idea. It's where you play as a brave knight who fights with a shovel. Well, it's really a shovel blade, and he uses it to jump onto his enemies. And who can blame them? Hundreds of indie games with great ideas fall to the wayside time and time again because a great idea is only as good as its execution. Recently, I had the pleasure of playing through Inscryption, a horror-based card battler made by one person. I say it's a card battler, but that's only the surface layer. Anyone who's a fan of this game will tell you to look up absolutely nothing about Inscryption and go in as blind as possible. But 2 years have passed since the game was released on Steam, and now that I've finally gotten around to playing it, I want to try and get you interested in trying Inscryption, assuming you haven't had the pleasure yet yourself. I will be spoiling elements that you are better off not knowing going in my opinion. But hey, if that didn't scare you off, my name's PoopBro420, and I'm here to explain to you why I think Inscryption is still worth your time, even if it's already been spoiled for you. Inscryption was created by Daniel Mullins, who has been a longtime contributor to the game jam scene, which are festivals and online get-togethers where small-time game creators gather to make video games from scratch, usually within 24 to 48 hours. There may be a certain theme or objective given to the creators, but its primary focus is to be a positive creative environment for beginners and veterans alike. On DanielMullins.com, Dan explains that all the popular games he's created originally began life as a much simpler version of themselves born during game jam events. The only other game of his that I have ever heard of was Pony Island, which has a similar reputation to Inscryption. You're a pony hopping over a fence, but eventually you figure out that Pony Island is just a game running on some computer. And once you Alt-Tab into the computer running Pony Island, you slowly start digging layer by layer into what's really going on. The similarities and differences between Pony Island and Inscryption are fascinating to me. They're both seemingly normal games on top that slowly reveal more of the going-ons behind the curtain as rewards for doing well in the game. Dan Mullins' games are known for defying expectations, usually by appearing to be a basic game at first, only to slowly add more and more layers to the formula that grow into an entirely different game that you may have never known you were signing up for. Inscryption begins with an innocent enough menu screen, except you can only select Continue Game. New Game is hollowed out for some reason. Once you hit Continue Game, you are greeted by a pair of creepy eyes floating in the dark. He says it's been a while since he's seen you, so he wants to refresh your memory on how to play the game. As I mentioned before, this is a card battler. Inscryption has this morbid theme to it where you're constantly sacrificing cards in order to play other cards. It's also morbid in the sense that this strange man is holding you against your will and telling you he's gonna kill you if you lose his game, just like the others. But don't think too hard about that. Most of the cards you come across have a cost located on the top right. Let's say a card has 2 drops of blood as its cost. That means you need to sacrifice 2 cards in order to play that card. You're going to find many times where a card you were using to attack, for example, needs to be sacrificed so that you can win the game. And some of these cards can talk. They will let you know how much they didn't like you sacrificing them last round. After you win your first card battle, the scary man in the dark rolls a world map onto the table. But oops, he forgot to grab your candlestick. He asked you to step up from the table and go grab it. Wait, what? You can walk around this room? And it's full of puzzles? But I thought this was just a card game! I don't want to go too deep into the details of the cards. I know nothing makes me escape into the back of my mind faster than someone explaining how a card game works to me. I'm sure there are other card games that are similar to Inscryption that I'm not familiar with that I could point to in order to intelligently explain how this card stuff works. But the reason I can't do that is because I usually do not like card games at all. But Inscryption is starting to change my mind about that. Eventually, you will lose this evil card game, and two very iconic hands come out of the dark to grab you. You're thrown into a back room, and the Buffalo Bill of card games asks you to help create your own death card. This is you getting to make your own card based on a combination of whatever was in your deck when you died. And you can make some really busted death cards. I dare you to talk trash to my dick butt card. Once you die, you get to start over as the next kidnapped victim being forced to play this game. Your death cards carry over as well as any progress on the puzzles you made in the cabin. As you keep playing and dying, you'll get a little farther each time. And then all of a sudden, it gets kind of crazy because... But this is only one of the many kinds of spaces you can land on via the world map. Some spaces will give you a new card, some will have you do some kind of quiz about your deck for great random cards, kind of like quizzing you on how well you know your own deck. But my personal favorites are the crowded campfires surrounded by starving people and the sacrificial altars. The campfires let you boost either the attack power or health points of a card. Also, they give you a chance to push your luck and boost your card's stats twice. But be careful, these people are hungry and will eat your card if you push your luck too far. Sacrificial altars have a lot more potential to create a busted ass deck because they let you sacrifice one card into another, thus inheriting any special powers they have. Do you have a card that can fly like a raven? Why not combine this raven with a wolf? Now it's a flying wolf. Again, I'm not going to go too deep into the details of the card game itself, but do I really need to explain why a flying wolf is better than a regular one? Eventually, you'll make it to the game's first boss, the Prospector. He's not a super hard fight, but I love how creative the game gets with each of its boss battles. Prospector-chan has a pack mule card that, if you kill it, will give you 5 cards. This is a huge help for this fight, and it's presented in such a clever way. He gets mad at you for stealing his stash and murdering his innocent mule. There are other bosses in the game that have creative approaches to fighting you, but I'll leave that for you to find yourself. Eventually though, you actually do it. You beat all the bosses and make it to the final boss. You've made friends with a lot of talking cards, you've learned the ins and outs of Inscryption's unique card games and the cards themselves. And you even come up with a master plan to finally destroy Buffalo Dickbud and escape. And holy shit, you actually do it. You even killed the moon in the process. If you saw my last video, you would know that I actually one-shot the moon because I'm actually always playing video games at a master level because I'm very smart. I would appreciate it if you would like, comment, and subscribe to this YouTube channel after you beat me up. Thank you. You turn the death card camera he's used to kill so many others against him, and finally, it's over. I know, it's weird to ruin the end of the game in a video like this, but wait a minute. Now you're stuck in a dark room you can't leave? You look into every nook and cranny and there is nothing. Is this really your reward for beating the game? When you quit the game, you're brought back to the menu screen and, the new game option is available all of a sudden. When you hit new game, something crazy happens. You are brought into a 2D RPG. There are 4 pillars that each represent somebody. One of them is clearly the guy that was holding you in a cabin, but the other 3 are completely different. These are the 4 scribes of Inscryption, 4 different card masters that each create their own unique type of deck. The game explains to you that you need to choose a style of card to make your deck into now. Your previous captor, whose name is Leshy, has a deck that is bloody and all about sacrifice. There's a robot named P03 whose deck is all about gaining power each turn. So let's say you have a card that costs 2. You just have to wait 2 turns and then you can put down as many 2 cards as you want. No more sacrificing like you have been in the 3D cabin the last 10 or so hours. The next scribe is Grimora, and all of her cards are about collecting dead coins to spend. Another completely unique approach. And then there's a scribe who's a talking Christmas tree with a paintbrush. His deck is all about color elements that each align with a certain type of attack person, like maybe...
Wake up! Wake up! Wake up! Wake up! Wake up!
Hey! I'm sorry, man. I did promise I wouldn't get too deep into the weeds of the card game, but this part was mind-blowing to me. The game isn't over at all at this point. The 2D RPG part is like figuring out you've been playing solitaire with only the diamond suit until your big brother finally hands you the rest of the 52 cards. Okay, I'm not spoiling anymore. There is still a lot left for you to discover yourself, and even after you've finished Inscryption, if you're like me, you're gonna wish the game was even longer. That's why Dan Mullins created Casey's Mod, Inscryption's first DLC, which is free, that is only available after you finish the game. The mod adds challenge modes, extra cards, and even new starter decks so you can make busted decks really early with a little luck on your side. It only focuses on the cabin part of the game, but takes out a lot of the perks from the original game to make it harder, like the removal of death cards, for example. This mod has been my go-to game for when I just want to play something fun. I'm absolutely blown away how much game is actually here, and I wouldn't be surprised if there was somehow more in the future, but only time will tell. Whenever Dan Mullins makes his next game, you can bet the whole hog that I will be reviewing it here. If you enjoy this kind of content, be sure to turn on subtitles for this video. It really helps me out. Also, if you'd like to see how good I actually am at Inscryption, then come hang out with me and my friends over at my Twitch page. This one. I usually specialize in playing mostly bad games, but occasionally I will actually play some good games. Anyways, I love you, sir. Thanks for watching. No, don't do that.